What trivial fact do you know only because of your job? The reason many TV shows have holiday special episodes is because TV viewership is very low the week of Christmas, but if they call it a special they don't need to include it when they calculate their average ratings for the season. Also, the day Americans watch the least amount of TV is the 4th of July. As is tradition when making trips to the air. Tulips will continue to grow, on average, 2 inches more after they've been cut, generally not while they're in cold storage, but once they're in a warmer environment. The average length of a real estate agent's career is about 4 months. Python, the language, was named after Monty Python, the comedy group, not after the snake. And its documentation contains a lot of Monty Python references. Book barcodes always begin with 978. Always. Well, 99.999999% of them. I once found one that started 979 and it blew my freaking mind. I told my co-worker and he looked at me like I was insane. Looks like things are heating up in the book fandom. The pink hand soap in most public restrooms is almond scented. Gritty degreaser type soap in dispensers may have ground walnut shells. We no longer have those soaps where I work because of the allergen risk. In the state of Nevada, only licensed private investigators are allowed to work as mystery shoppers. This seems like a job that they are grossly overqualified to perform. You know those vintage looking shirts at the store that are distressed on the print? It saves the company a ton of money on ink costs. My boss says that trend is what made him a millionaire. Awesome. I love that style because I can wear larger prints without the ink making the shirt behave differently. Accountant. That if your figures are out by an amount that is divisible by 9, you have probably transposed a number somewhere. That is 45 instead of 54. Hey, I'm a banker when I'm trying to find a teller outage. This helps so much. Everyone calls me a nerd until I find the missing 9k. The most common type of stainless steel is grade 304. The second most common is grade 316, which is used for food and surgical purposes. The second most common is grade 316, which is used for food and surgical purposes. 316L is absolutely massive for ventilation ductwork in certain industries. Government work is less about fixing problems and more about documenting that they exist. I'm government employee. I'd say a typical day breaks down about like this. This is 10% sleep, 20% chill, 15% online just paying my bills, 5% work, 50% games, and 100% trying to find out who to blame. Ground moles have kitchens just like us. They will paralyze earthworms, their primary food source, by biting its head and will drag the worms to a designated burrow where they store the bodies to save for later. Babies don't have patellas, kneecaps, and it's super freaking weird. I can confirm this. I went to gently wiggle my baby's patella, thinking AWW, baby patella, and it wasn't there. That fish stocks in rivers are quantified by stunning the fish with electricity, then counting them when they float to the surface. There are 0 fish in this river. So many companies will let you walk in, say I'm with the computer company, and walk out with a computer. Cows have a tendon running down the back of their necks that holds their head up. It's called a paddywhack and you can dry it out and give it to dogs like a rawhide bone. That's the source of knick-knack paddywhack. Give a dog a bone. I worked on a dairy farm and learned that cows love getting the insides of their ears cleaned. Oxygen is considered to be a drug because a physician has to prescribe it before it can be administered to a patient. So, if a cop asks me if I'm drinking and driving, I can just call him a hypocrite for driving under the influence of a drug and speed away. Noted. Excel files from versions prior to Microsoft Office 2010 only go up to 65,536 rows. Excel files from versions of Microsoft Office 2010 and on go up to 1,048,576 rows. Still not enough. A UT in an elderly person will give them symptoms that are close to psychosis. Christmas season advertisements are photographed in around July. In my crappy retail job, we get our Christmas brochures in July and start getting stock in by late August. We already got a Christmas bargain bonanza flyer from one of our suppliers. Pizza delivery drivers, in a perfect world, are supposed to only carry $20 in change, typically $2 and $10 ones. So mugging pizza delivery drivers is not very lucrative. In Kansas, taking a hot air balloon ride is tax-free because it's transportation, but if it's tethered to the ground while you're in it, it's taxed as an amusement ride. Years ago I worked for a friend who is a surveyor. Survey marks everywhere, hidden in plain view. They really are. Someone I know cut down a tree on his property. There was an original official AHD on it. Chaos ensued. As a builder, we see them everywhere. Footpaths, gutters, roads, fences, posts, etc. Whenever we build a new home, there is always a few nice and close. Bit late to the party. Work in a grocery store. If you pay with a $100 note for an $11.15 purchase, you get one of every denomination and the tillers change. In Australia. I want to try this now, but your spiders are too scary. Forklifts should lift loads only 4 inches off the ground during travel. I've worked in many warehouses, never saw any carrying a load so low. In news and magazine articles, numbers 1 to 9 should be written with words, and anything 10 and up gets numerals. Dogs have an extra gland on their tails. This is because the tail can be tucked between the legs to still give scent but not have another dog smell their bits. Anyone can call into most cell phone providers and say you're dead and cancel your service. We aren't allowed to ask for proof of death, and literally anyone can claim you have died as long as they say they are family. We can't ask any questions, just cancel the account due to death. I would like to cancel all of your customers' phone plans. I am related to all of them, and they all died. The 8 steps to properly lifting a box from when I worked at UPS like 4 years ago. 1. Get close to the box. Work within your power zone. Shoulders to mid-thigh. 2. Position feet shoulder width apart. 3. Bend at the knees keeping the natural curve of the back. 4. Grab the box from opposite diagonal corners. 5. Test for weight and shifting contents. 6. Stand up in a clean swift motion. 7. Move your feet. Step or pivot, don't twist. 8. Use existing equipment if need be. 9. Heave box into the air and let it fall. 10. Deliver as is. I work in print shop that also takes passport photos, and I've noticed that an overwhelming number of people slightly tilt their head to the right about 1 to 3 degrees. A few people have perfectly aligned heads and fewer still tilt their heads to the left. When a person is drowning, they do it silently, unless they've got an injury, in which case they'll be very loud, or dead. Past job, but George Jenkins, founder of Publix, big grocery store chain in Florida Southeast, was close friends with Walt Disney. Also, the company still basically idolizes Jenkins like a cult leader. Having a lot of Instagram followers can be pretty easily monetized. My wife has 1,500 followers and is already getting free products and trips in exchange for posting about them. We still have some costs to pay ourselves, but we get to go to events and try things we wouldn't otherwise. The 9th of May 2010, definitely recommend. She's had her lifestyle and travel account going for a little over a year now, primarily posting about 2 nearby cities. Before working at a library, I didn't know there was a worldwide database of library records that contains over 1 billion records. I guess I thought that librarians read the books and made records based on that. Nope. In one abbreviated cataloging procedure, I spend maybe a minute per book. The pop connected to the tubes behind the soda fountain is stored in plastic bags, inside flimsy cardboard boxes on a rack. Some theaters in your area may have sensory-friendly screenings, mostly geared towards children with autism and other disabilities. The lights remain dim instead of off, the volume is turned down, and there are subtitles. Getting up, walking around, and talking are fine. Occasionally one person has 5 minutes to clean an entire theater. Theater employees are encouraged to see movies so we can answer questions you might have about them. Except me, I will straight up lie to you wildly about the movie based on my opinion of the last 5 minutes of it that I saw, but that's more of a trivial fact about me. Also a theater employee. Confirmed. Also, the average theater employee doesn't read, is not paid enough to care if you bring in outside food, as long as you don't leave trash from Whole Foods in the theater for us to clean up. I worked in a meat shop. Don't store raw meat above cooked meat, and always store chicken at the bottom, then pork, then beef, because they have different cook temps. Store bacon above everything else, because it's partially cooked, even if it's raw. Now I'm a health insurance agent. If your claim is denied, appeal it, and they will probably pay out, as in they pay out in 97% of appeals. A really good predictive indicator for kids on the autism spectrum, even more than eye contact, is if they show joint attention. If they can play with their toy and avert their eyes to their caregiver for a second, and then back to their toy. I work with kids in the 0-3 age range, so they are often at the beginning of their journey. Also, attention and imitation are the basis of language acquisition. If you can't get a child's attention, it will be awfully hard to get him to pick up your language cues. The heaviest stable isotope that we know of is lead-208. Traffic lights won't change for emergency vehicles until the pedestrian phase is complete. In the UK, the lights don't change for emergency vehicles, we just power through them even if red. Mid-grade gasoline is just a mix of regular and premium. Ratios are generally chain specific. For example, my workplace's mix is 60/40 regular premium. The average new RV costs more than the average house. I grew up thinking poor people lived in RVs. Some poor people do live in RVs, they're just really old and not the expensive new ones. If you try to add thickener to beer, that is, in order to serve it to someone who can't drink thin fluids due to a medical condition, it turns into a weird foamy thing that is not satisfying at all. Power wheelchairs can cost as much as or more than an average car. Now think about the people who need them and how much money they may have. This one is trivial, not trivial. People with dementia are still functioning human beings with interests, needs, wants. For the ones that are still able to respond, they still want to have a life. Just takes some patience to figure out what they want and to get to know their peculiarities. To pity them and consider them empty shells is to do these people a disservice. Noah Webster of Webster's Dictionary fame was the one to take the U out of color and advocate using Z's instead of S's as the British do. Realize versus realize, because his philosophy was new nation equals new language. All Pepsi products expire on a Monday night. RF radiation is non-ionizing. That is, phones don't give you cancer, people. Visible light is more ionizing than radio signals that phones use. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.